What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, a little Thanksgiving edition podcast, which I would say we have two holidays that as you become adult, separate from the pack. Obviously, when it comes to the summer, nothing tops 4th of July. And when it comes to the fall / the winter, as you get older, Christmas turns into a little kid's holiday, a holiday for your children, for your nephews, for your nieces, and really for your older parents sometimes as well, because they get to share it with their family who might not live by them anymore. And Thanksgiving becomes an adult's Christmas. So Thanksgiving is my personal favorite holiday. It's just hard to beat. It has food, it has football, and it has booze. So we'll talk a little football. This will be the last podcast. We'll do a reaction on Thursday night after the games. Games would be strong. There's one game that's a 10-point spread in the morning game, Lions hosting the Bears. The day game with the Cowboys and the Giants forcing Tom Brady to work on Thanksgiving has Cooper Rush against Tommy DeVito. But the night game, Miami has won a couple straight games, I think 3, and playing the Packers. So we'll dive into that. But I got to hit on, Jerry had some comments today about McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers is just the gift that keeps on giving. So we'll touch on that before we dive into the games and just enjoy Thanksgiving, because that's what this is. What I love this week. I've loved this week really since I was a little kid. Any person that likes to eat loves Thanksgiving. It is just a day when you just binge eat, which for some of us fat asses, we've been doing that way too much in general. So I don't know if much changed on Thanksgiving. It just involves turkey, mashed potatoes, and some sort of pie. I hate pumpkin pie personally, but let's dive in really quick before we talk some football. I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, and the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime. Here's the thing. Do you know what's right around the corner? Christmas. Do you know what I did last year for Christmas? Is I gave my brother and his wife a pair of tickets to a concert. And I got him pretty close to front row. And he told me after, he's like, you know what? I don't know if I could ever go to a concert again without sitting that close. I'm like, hey, what Gametime does for you. They take care of you, because if you want to go to a concert, if you want to go to a game, it's the time to give. Do something for someone else. Get your dad some tickets to a game. Get, your wife and her friends, make her Christmas. Get her some tickets to her favorite concert coming up in 2025. And do it with the best app I've ever used when it comes to buying tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code JOHN. $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Okay, well, the thing with Jerry is every week you're going to get some quotes because he talks, unlike every other owner, multiple times every week. And while he is technically the GM as well, most GMs, do you notice, you don't hear from much during the season, if at all? When's the last time Howie Roseman gave a comment? When's the last time you heard some scorching take from Les Snead? Right? Is Brett Veach coming off the top rope with some thoughts on either his team, other teams, or just in general football? They don't really talk, because once the season starts, typically, one, the owner doesn't get any benefit from ever speaking. It's why Jerry's such an outlier. Listen, I speak for a living, so I get it. Jerry likes to hear himself talk. I guess there are parts, even if you don't, speak for a living, there are parts that we all do. But Jerry's overboard. It feels a little excessive as of late. And, the elephant in the room is, like, who's going to be the Cowboys' next coach? Is Deion Sanders really on the table? Which becomes, I would say, less likely with every game they win, because they aren't going to have the number 1 pick. Hell, they probably aren't even going to sniff the top 5. They could rattle off some wins and all of a sudden be drafting like 13th. And unlike the National Basketball Association, even if they were to hire Dion as their head coach, there just is no way, like, don't draft us, we won't play for you. That's not the way the NFL works. Someone would 1,000,000% draft Shedeur Sanders if they wanted to, if they viewed him as a high pick. He wouldn't just fall. Hell, the last time it happened with Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, Eli dropped a couple spots. Like there is no way to orchestrate this like you can in basketball where you've seen that happen constantly when an agent can kind of maneuver their way. We've seen it happen a couple times in football, but it's really just the difference of a team. It's not like I have to go to this team who's drafting 17th. Like, yeah, good luck. But Jerry was asked about Mike McCarthy today and about a contract extension and his status. And when I saw the headline, like most people, you're like, what did Jerry say? And I think the hard part about this now is we're going to put Jerry's comments into a couple categories because he's got to fall under one or two things. And when asked about McCarthy's status and if he could get a contract extension, Jerry said that's not crazy at all. And the first thing I wrote down, if you believe Jerry still is cognitively there, and as some people that have covered him said, don't sleep on Jerry being crazy like a fox, this would be a comment that would ensure that his team doesn't quit on Mike McCarthy. This is a comment that they just showed life against Washington. They're playing New York on Thanksgiving. You want everyone in that building to think that Mike could still be in charge next year and have a huge impact on your fate. That he is the guy with Jerry Jones deciding who's going to play, who's not going to play. Do you get to maintain your status as a Cowboy player? There are really only a couple guys on the roster that are quote unquote on scholarship, right? Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs, maybe Bland if he's healthy. Obviously, Micah if they extend him. But you want the rest of the guys to go, hey, it's a pretty good deal playing here, right? You guys make a lot of extra money off the field because you're a Dallas Cowboy player. And don't think for a second that I couldn't bring Mike back. So that felt a little bit like if you assume Jerry still got a little crazy like a fox in him, that's where that comment would kind of come as a curveball. If he is serious that he might resign him, it could just be simply, listen, I'm 40. I'm not a huge fan of change. Professionally, I will do it when you just realize, one, you're making a mistake, you could do something better, the industry's changed or whatever. But I would say a pretty consistent theme in my life is like I'm pretty regimented and organized in like how I like my days and the foods I like eating. And I stay pretty consistent. I'm not a big, like, huge curveball coming up this Wednesday. Like, I understand someone not wanting drastic changes. That I can relate to that. Some people just kind of blow by the wind wherever it takes you. See what happens. I could imagine at 82 years old, Jerry ain't really excited about hosting interviews for future coaches and then having to help out and, sign off on new coordinators, new position coaches. Probably feels like a pretty big pain in the ass, which, like, even if it should happen, part of that also is like new schemes, getting rid of some players. It is just a huge, huge undertaking. And I bet at 82 years old, he was praying to God this would work. And the third, maybe he's just completely out of it and just everything he says completely doesn't matter, which is obviously on the table the older you get. Your comments hold less and less weight. And who knows what to believe anytime he talks because he's kind of all over the map. And I think it's probably a combination, a little bit of everything. But one thing I do believe coming into the season, as the season is unraveled and as everything has taken place, no owner wants to go on a coaching search if they can avoid it. Like, in a perfect world, can you imagine what a pain in the ass a coaching search is? One, it takes a ton of time doing something that is a really educated guess at best, which has proven over and over and over again that even if you know what you're doing and have the right intentions and have the right focus on who you're looking for, it's still a low percentage that you are going to hit a home run hire. So I don't even blame Jerry for just wanting to avoid this and praying that Mike can just rattle off some wins, somehow get this team to like 8 or 9 wins and be like, you know what? Let's just keep this rolling for a couple more years. Here's a 2 year, $17 million contract extension. But Jerry finds a way to keep making news. Getting some holiday shopping done this weekend? Pick up some touchdowns. They're on sale at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. What else would you expect from the number one place to bet touchdowns? DraftKings has a doorbuster, profit boost, and bet one, get one promotions on all type of touchdown bets. Be sure to check the DraftKings Sportsbook app all weekend for flash deals that will have you dancing in the end zone. Grab some TDs with DraftKings Sportsbook. They're on sale from Thanksgiving through Cyber Monday. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code JOHN to opt in. That's code JOHN only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. When you read explosive articles like the one that came out about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets last week, for most of my life, at least, I just assumed everything was true. Like when you read, because anytime that a sports journalist writes an article and you get like, this is the reason he was fired, then he stopped talking to the owner and the owner had it out for him. You put all these pieces together about a player and an agent or whatever. You're just like, this is crazy. And I read an article recently and then I texted someone involved in that organization and they're like, a lot of that article, and this is not someone that had an agenda or anything. Honestly, he didn't even care. It didn't even really impact him. He was like, it wasn't even true. It was actually the opposite of what was written. And obviously everything that's going on in society right now with a lot of the legacy media, from newspapers to some of the prominent news channels that are dying on the vine right now. A lot of people try to justify it for different reasons, the changing of the landscape, the internet, the options. I do think there's just I don't really believe what I'm being told. So if you lose credibility with me as a consumer, I no longer come back to you. Obviously, there are other factors, but sometimes you read an article and you just assume everything is true, like about Aaron Rodgers. When it came out that he was denying, scans on his body, that he was telling people that, him and Woody hate each other, that hell, Woody wanted him benched, that all these different elements. And I think sometimes you got to take some of this stuff with a grain of salt. But same thing when Aaron Rodgers asked about McAfee, like he denied it all. Said, one, I haven't told anybody about what I plan on doing in 2025, but I've never declined a MRI or scan on a body part when I'm with the Jets. And I think all this stuff makes for great headlines and explosive stories because his name, Aaron Rodgers, and he's one of the more polarizing players in sports. He's kind of the LeBron of the NFL. When you just put him into a story, people just gravitate to it. And when you read it, you are just, probably going to believe it because so much crazy shit has happened that it is believable. But my take would be on just the entire Rodgers situation is that none of it really matters, that the next coach and the general manager will determine what happens to him. And he even said as much today of like, there is so much unknown that's out of my control. Who's going to be running this operation that we know is going to be two brand new people, that everything's on the table. And that's the way it works in the NFL, right? Because these contracts aren't guaranteed. And when new coaches and new GMs come in, that we usually see players up for grabs. There's no telling that like next year, Sauce Gardner could be on the trading block around the combine and free agency, or Garrett Wilson. Like or Breece Hall. I'm not saying that's going to take place, but we have seen way crazier. It happens all the time. John Gruden got the Raider job, and 6 months later, Khalil Mack was on the Bears in the prime of his career at the second most important position in the sport. So everything would be on the table, especially when you're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback who doesn't quite look like himself. But I just think you read some of these stories, and trust me, I'm no different than you. I'm like, damn, this is whoa, damn, Woody, geez, Aaron. And then you start texting around, and you're like, yeah, it's not really the way it played out. Like that's not what happened. And I think, listen, this is a problem that you just assume things are true. And I do feel for, coaches or definitely players when some of this stuff historically has been, reported and it just might not be true. And I'm not defending Aaron. I don't really give a shit, but I just think the Jets situation is just so far out of whack that you could write anything and it would be believed because it is believable. But this whole situation is going to be ultimately determined by who's running the operation and the coach and the general manager.